Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 1919 Architects podcast called Since 1919. Today, we have a very interesting topic for the future architect. We're going to cover a couple questions. What does it take to be an architect? What are the steps? Do I need my license? If you're watching today, you'll probably see I have a new guest with me. I'm joined here today by Zach Enderle, principal and partner at 1919 Architects. We're going to go over all those steps and more. Zach, I'll give it over to you.
Thanks for having me, Margaret, first of all.
Absolutely.
I think it's been a pretty cool thing that you've gotten started for us here. But, looking forward to going over this topic with you. Obviously, it's personal to me because I am a licensed architect, so I think I know a little bit about this. But, we can get started.
Okay. So first question, when did you want to become an architect? Like, how did you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So my grandfather and my uncle both were draftsmen, and so they were in the industry. I was aware of what the profession was about just growing up, but I maybe wasn't too sure about all the details associated with it. Yeah. But also my mom was an art teacher, so she was had that very creative mind as well. And but ultimately, I wish I could say that's it, but it was actually the show MTV Cribs when I was growing up, probably elementary school age. MTV Cribs was my favorite show, and I just always thought it was really interesting, all these really cool custom mansions that they had. So I think that was what first kind of got me like excited about architecture, but then knowing that there was a career path, like I said, from like my grandfather and my uncle's experience kind of helped lead me down that road.
Absolutely. We talked a little about in our pre-interview that you had like an early interest and your high school actually helped you, I guess, kind of get your feet wet. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think in general, for aspiring architects, especially when you're in, I know it's tough society right now. We're putting a lot of pressure on, teenagers to figure out what they want to do for the rest of their lives. But so kind of like I mentioned, my interest at least started when I was in elementary school, junior high, and I went to Harlem High School. Mm-hmm. Shout out to the Huskies out there. Mm-hmm. We had a really good drafting program starting in middle school. Okay. So I actually was able to start taking like architecture focused classes when I was in middle school through high school. I think I took there was 4 years of drafting stuff that we had. Yeah. And that really prepared me, I think, quite a bit. But I also understand that that's not available to every student out there. So let's just say that you're at a school that doesn't have those like architecture focused programs for you. There's still some things I think you could do to prepare for becoming an architect. I think that, math and physics are important. Okay. Kind of engineering-based things, and also, really, I think this is something I mentioned. My mom was an art teacher, but I don't know if she was ever like upset with me. But I never took art classes. Really, it just wasn't anything that I really did. Yeah. I was really good at drawing like cartoons and stuff, but I didn't really focus on that from an academic standpoint. But I do think if you could, get involved in the arts, in any possible way, I think that just helps maintain that creative focus. Yeah. And that's what I think is beautiful about architecture is it's like this blend of like math and art almost. So it's kind of like brings those two, programs together and just allows you to kind of focus and be creative. And it's just cool to, be able to have a job where you could be creative. So. Absolutely.
Well, we're going to get into a little bit more of the detail-oriented parts here. So when did you get your degree? What year was that?
See, and this has been fun too for me going back in time because I thought I successfully like blocked out all of this from my memory. But I got my bachelor's degree in 2008. Okay. Master's degree in 2010. Okay. And then I got my license officially in 2016.
Okay. And do you want to talk about like the steps, like once you're in school for architecture, like signing up for NCARB and all of that?
Yeah, I think really, so it's been about 10 years now since I got my license.
Yep.
So it wasn't a lot of like the acronyms and stuff have changed, but I did try to do a little bit of research just so that I'm not just saying like the old school names for things and it doesn't make any sense to anybody now.
Right.
So I do think I kind of got my ducks in a row as far as what the kind of new requirements are, because they have changed since I first became an architect. But really, the key is like there's really three main components. It's the educational component, and then there's an internship component, and then there's an exam component. So the educational component, obviously, that's the first step, and that's pretty important to make sure you're doing that correctly. You have to go to what's called an NAAB accredited. Well, you have to have an NAAB accredited degree. So the NAAB stands for the, and I had to write these down a little bit too. It's hard to remember all these. The National Architectural Accrediting Board. So if you go to naab.org, they actually have a link on that shows you which programs are accredited in each state. There's kind of like this interactive map that shows up. And then you can kind of click on the schools and see if it's accredited or not. So one of the things, as we were preparing for this, just to be careful of, so I'm going to focus on the best architecture school in the country, the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign.
Not sponsored.
So if you click on that button for that school, it actually comes up with two. It's the bachelor's degree. Like I mentioned, I got my bachelor's degree and master's degree from Illinois. It lists both of them though. So it's a little confusing maybe, because you might see the Bachelor of Architecture and think that it's on the NAAB website. So it must be accredited. If you actually click on that link though, it doesn't say that it's accredited. It's actually the master's degree. That's the accredited degree. So So just make sure, that was the only thing I think, in my opinion, you just kind of need to look out for on that website. But
and just to clarify for those who might be listening, at least, and this was a question that I had, was if you want your license, you can't get it with a bachelor's. You need to have a master's. Is that correct?
Yeah, typically that accredited degree is going to be more than a bachelor's degree. There could be, and I don't want to make a blanket statement and say every degree is the same, because different schools do it differently. There might be one out there, but I would just check that on the website and just make sure when you click on the degree that you're looking for, that it's actually listed as an accredited degree. It's not just like a stepping stone degree. Like a prerequisite type degree. So that's, obviously that's important, is to find out the school that you want to go to. And then the next portion of it is the internship portion. So it's currently called the AXP. When I was getting my license, it was called the IDP, the Internship Development Program. So AXP stands for Architectural Experience Program. I know experience actually starts with an E, but I think AXP sounds better. So I think that's what they were going for with that. So to start that, you need to go to, you need to create an NCARB record. So NCARB, another acronym, stands for the National Council of Architectural Registration Boards. They're the ones who actually administer the whole licensure process. So you have to create an NCARB account through NCARB's website. So ncarb.org. Really, just to create an account, all you have to have is a high school degree or equivalent. So you could get that signed up as soon as you finish high school. You can sign up for that. And really, the AXP, it's different. The requirements are different now than they were when I became an architect. But the current requirement is 3,740 hours.
Which sounds really intimidating.
It does. I did check, though, while we were preparing for this. I did over 7,000 hours.
Yeah.
But that was on me, because I could have finished my exams earlier, but I just kept logging my hours. So, but yeah, it does sound kind of daunting, but obviously that's just, it's, I don't want to say there's not stress associated with it, but really it's just, it's going to work and getting work done, I guess you could say. But you do have to focus. There's focus areas. There's 6 areas, anywhere from practice management to construction evaluation, that you need, and they require, you have to just, obviously when you get into that process, it tells you how many hours you need for each one of these areas. So You can't just get 3,700 hours in construction documents only, like just drawing buildings all day and assembling construction documents. It has to focus on all these different areas, and you have to meet the minimum requirements for all the time that's spent. But basically, you log your hours on through your NCARB account, and you need to have a supervisor though that signs off on those. So typically, they require a minimum of 1,860 hours need to be directly under a licensed architect, basically. So they're saying like half of your hours have to come under the supervision of a licensed architect, which makes sense. But they do give you, an opportunity to gain some hours. I believe it's the maximum of 1,860 can be work outside of a licensed architecture firm. So there is a path. You don't have to get all of the hours working at. So just in case, you graduated college, you can't get a job at an architecture firm. Maybe the economy's rough. I know that's what happened to me right out of college. It was, 2008, 2010. It was kind of down. If you can't get a job at an architecture firm, but it's still like associated with some of the work that's required for the internship, you can have a supervisor still sign off on that. So, but it is capped, obviously. So that's, really that's kind of the key for the internship portion.
And you can do this while you're getting your degree, right?
Yes, that's a very good point too. Yep, you can log hours. So if you're in college and you have maybe you have a job while you're in college at an architecture firm, or just in the summer breaks or winter breaks, you can actually start to log those hours earlier. And there are some programs. We didn't talk about this a ton, kind of as our prep for this, but there are some programs now where it's like even more streamlined, where you can kind of work towards your licensure while you're in college. Yeah. But I'm kind of focusing more on like the traditional path now.
Sure.
So
yeah.
So yeah, then the last component is the exam.
Yes.
Which is the fun part, right? Because you've already finished school. You had to go to school for 6 years, and you thought you were done. But you have to take some exams. So I know it hasn't been that long, but back in my day, there was 7 exams. So now there's 6 exams.
Yes.
So this is ARE 5.0, just in case you're listening to this in the future. And it's on a different version. So ARE 5.0 is the current one, and there's 6 exams. So really, so for that as well, if you go to NCARB's website, they have tabs after basically a lot of the stuff that I'm presenting is on the NCARB website. So you can go on there. I think it says Destination Architect. You click on that, and it kind of recaps a lot of this information. But really, those ARE exams, there's a lot of resources available, not just on NCARB's website, but I'm sure you could probably talk to people if you are in an architecture firm, kind of what resources they used. Things have changed though, right? Like I can't give like my study material to somebody now who's training to be an architect because of the exams. Like I said, I had 7, there's 6 now. Yeah. So it's just different, but there's plenty of resources available for you to study for that. And yeah, ultimately, I think, if I could speak on just my experience with that, it is tough when you're working to take exams at the same time, because you have a life, right? You have a job, maybe you're married, you got kids. Yeah. So it is hard really to kind of like, you have to be very intentional about setting aside time. You don't find time for it, you make time for it, right? So setting aside time to study for your exams and making sure that you're just very, diligent about staying on track with that. For me, I think I took a couple exams, and I think when we were looking through it, it's kind of funny because you can see like the exam dates, and it was just kind of, it's funny to look back on now. It wasn't funny at the time, but like I would just take an exam, and then I would just kind of wait and then take my next exam when I was just ready for it, whenever that was. But if you're really looking to just get it over with, which I would definitely encourage everybody to try to just get it over with as soon as you can, I would take an exam, and then that day I would come home from taking that test. Unfortunately, the way the ARE is set up, you don't know if you pass the test like when you leave, which is kind of like stressful for a little bit. Yeah. But I would come home that day, and then I would sign up for my next exam. And And really, I think you should understand after that first exam, especially like how long it takes for you in your current life situation to properly prepare for one exam. So once you get that idea, though, I mean, let's just say you feel comfortable you could do it in 4 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is. Just give yourself enough time to make sure that you're not like, there's no reason to stress out about it and like sign up for your next exam in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You just understand, like I said, your life situation, sign up for that next exam, and then just stay, like I said, stay diligent on making sure that you're studying at like proper intervals to make sure that you're well prepared. But that, to me, once I did that, it took me like 2 or 3 years to take 2 tests, and then I took the rest of them in 1 year just because I was just staying on top of it. So I do think that's important.
It's really good advice.
Well, thank you, Margaret.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So really, once you get through the exams, I think that's kind of the last step. There's some more administrative steps you got to do through whatever state you're getting licensed in. So whether it's for me personally, I got licensed in the state of Illinois first. But the cool thing about having that NCARB certificate, though, if you've done everything and meet NCARB's requirements and you get their certificate, basically what that allows you to do is get like a reciprocal license in other states. So to practice architecture in Wisconsin, I can't just have my Illinois license. I have to have a license in Wisconsin too. So I'm currently licensed in Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, North Carolina, and Texas. So I had to actually sign up through each one of those states' registration boards, but then NCARB basically I'd ask NCARB to send my transmittal or whatever, my transcripts, to each one of these states, and then basically they just read all that information and make sure that you followed or met their requirements. Most states, I think there's a couple of them out there. I'm not going to get too specific off the top of my head and guess because I don't know for sure. But I do know there might be some states that you might have a couple more steps you have to take. But typically, it's just signing up and then having your NCARB transcript sent to them.
So you've gotten your degree. You've gotten your license after taking all of those tests. Now you're registered in the state you want to be registered in. But the party doesn't stop. What's next for the architect?
You got to take
continuing education units.
Yeah, you can't. It just doesn't stop, right?
Yeah.
There is continuing education depending on what state you're in. So in Illinois, it's every November 30th on the even number years. You have to get 24 CEUs. So continuing education credits or hours, units. I think CEUs is technically units. So you could call it a lot of different things. But ultimately, there are so many different avenues that you can get that. I mean, Lunch and Learns, I think, is the most traditional way to do it. That's easiest. You have a product rep that comes in. They get you lunch, so you get free lunch also. And then they just kind of go over a topic specifically. That has to do with it's not necessarily them selling their product to you. It's them telling you about the industry standards kind of and trends for that specific product. So they'll go over that with you. There's ways you can go online and take some, get an hour for taking like a quick class and then a quiz afterwards. So there's a lot of different ways you can accomplish that. It is definitely a lot less stressful than anything that you've had to do to become an architect. That part of it is, but it's something that you have to stay on top of just because, and I don't care what anybody says, architecture is a professional degree and we're professionals. So it's like a lot of other jobs that you have to have and you're professional. You have to continue to stay on top of what the current trends are in the industry. So.
Okay. Well, do you want to move forward to just some advice from you as an architect? I'll start with this question. What about architecture is different than you thought it would be?
Yeah, that's a very good question because, like I said, I always go back to like when did I first want to be an architect and what did I think the job was going to be then?
Yeah.
The 10-year-old version of me watching MTV Cribs thought I was just going to be able to design buildings all day, right? Because that'd be fun. Yeah. But it seems like more and more, like I have less time designing and more time just administering. Like, so as an architect, you're sort of the quarterback of the team, in my opinion. Like, everything always comes back to the architect. So whether it's your consultants as your engineering consultants, the owner, you're kind of the hub. So a lot of times that means that you need to get in the middle of some conversations and kind of help coordinate conversations to get the project back on track. Stuff like that. Just standard like paperwork for like payouts and stuff like that you might have to do, field reports. So there's, it's not like you're just designing stuff all day. There's a lot of more like paperwork, administrative type stuff that you have to do. But that's definitely maybe a little different than I thought it was going to be. But other than that, like I said, it is kind of like I have to remind myself sometimes while I'm at work, and if I'm in Revit, just like designing a building 3-dimensionally, and like, hey, this is fun. You could be doing a lot of other things right now for a job, but it's not. It still is kind of crazy sometimes that we do, this is our job to sort of be, it is kind of like be an artist sometimes.
Yes.
So
next question. What type of person do you need to be to pursue this?
And that's actually a great question, because in my opinion, I've just, whether it was from architecture school or past jobs that I've had, coworkers that I've had, you could have a lot of different kinds of personalities. Like you could be more introverted, or you can, you could be the loudest person in the room. It doesn't matter. But I think really the keys are, obviously the creativity portion of it. That's important. You need to have that. But you do need to, there are some leadership skills I do believe that you have to have. Like you need to be comfortable. Like I mentioned earlier, the architect is kind of like the hub, in my opinion, sometimes of the project. So you have to have good communication skills. It's the worst thing in the world if your architect's not responding to anybody or not coordinating things properly. So you have to have that in you. You have to be able to be a leader. And ultimately, you also have to be a good teammate. Yeah. So it's not like it's just your call on everything, right? You need to be able to work and compromise with your consultants and with the owner, with the contractor. So I think all those things are important, though.
What if you're interested in architecture but don't want to be an architect?
And that's a great question too, because ultimately, we've been talking this whole time about what it takes to be an architect, and it wasn't a quick answer.
No.
So a lot of people, when they hear what it takes to be a licensed architect, they kind of like get big eyes, and they're kind of just like, wow, that's way too much. And I don't want to have to do all that, but architecture still seems pretty cool. You don't have to be a licensed architect to work at an architecture firm. I guess I talked about my grandfather earlier. He was what was known as a draftsman. I think it's still probably a draftsman, even though drafting, I know there's computer drafting, but he did everything by hand, right? But we still need, I think we kind of refer to them as project managers now. We still need people that can help assemble drawings. It's a lot of work and a lot of time that goes into assembling a set of construction documents, and also then administering after that. So I mentioned field reports, payout stuff, meetings during construction. We call that construction administration, basically. A lot of that stuff we need hands on deck sometimes. Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways you can become a draftsman at a firm or a project manager. There's 2-year degrees. There's a lot of different schools. I mean, you could do some research a little bit. I want to say Blackhawk is the name of one of the institutions, like a technical institution that they offer those sorts of programs. Like it really allows you to maybe learn basics of construction, but most of it is learning the software. So understanding how to use like AutoCAD and Autodesk, Revit. Those are the main, drafting softwares that we use. So ultimately, there's definitely a path to it. I get it. Going to college isn't for everybody. It's a lot of, some people might not have the means, like financially. I know a lot of things are going on, especially like, with the government talking about new requirements potentially on architecture, just loans that you can get, student loans you can get. So I understand that a lot of that, it just depends on the situation that you're in, but you might not be able to be, you might not even want to pursue that just because of the work. So you could still have a career in the industry without being a licensed architect. So that's definitely a path.
Well, I think that's about it for our conversation. I hope it was helpful to whoever's listening. Thank you so much, Zach, for being on today. This has been the Since 1919 Architects podcast.